building a professional brand.
Sweet. So building your professional brand. So I guess we should probably start by talking about what professional branding is, right? So here's my understanding of professional branding. So that's kind of how people know you and in your professional circles. And that may seem really basic, but what are you known for? Whenever I'm stealing, okay, I'm kind of stealing from you, but whenever people talk about you, what do they say? What's the first thing they say? That's what I kind of view your personal brand to be. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the big thing, right? Is what kind of defines you as an individual. And whenever people, I guess, see you or they have an opportunity to work with you, or even just, um, information that's transferred over from somebody, if you're switching roles, or if somebody's talking about bringing you onto a team, they say, okay, well, what is this person like? Is he a good worker? Can I rely on him? Is he dependable? What are some things? What are some of his strong suits? What is he good at? And what are some of the things that we can expect him to kind of fall short on? So I think that's really what branding is, and kind of what you want to, I guess, like label yourself as.
Yeah, and that's why it's important, right? Because if you're trying to move into a new role, you're trying to move into a new team, you're trying to do anything new, then your personal brand is the first thing that other people are going to talk about whenever your manager is advocating for a raise for you on your behalf, they're going to speak to you on their knowledge of your personal brand. When somebody is thinking about getting you a promotion, they're going to speak to you on your personal brand. Whenever you are pitching yourself to a potential new employer, you are pitching your personal brand. So having a good understanding of what your personal brand is and being self-aware of what you're putting out there, I think, and you can chime in here, but I think is extremely important for your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, right? Is whenever they start, a lot of times people are just focused on output and productivity.
Hmm.
But something that you want to focus on, especially early in your career, is what you're known for, what you're known as, and building something that you can continue and take with you the rest of your career, right? You want to limit the number of blemishes, or the I guess the things that people are going to say about you that don't necessarily put you in the light that you either want to be seen as, or put you in a bad light that's going to be really limiting for you in the future.
Exactly. So we've talked about the importance of a personal brand, but maybe we should just back it up a little bit and talk about what we talked about. We kind of glossed on what a personal brand is, but let's talk about brands. So we got Nike. What's their personal brand?
Right. Yeah. So, I think nowadays we're definitely in this environment where, with like Instagram and with all these different things,
Yeah.
people are really pushing mottos and they're pushing brands. So I mean, you think about it and it's like, what is that brand known for? Right. And typically it comes out as like a motto or a slogan. So with Nike, it's like, it's just do it. Right. Adidas, nothing is impossible. Disney has one where it's, first think, second believe, third dream, and finally dare, right? And they
Oh,
want to,
interesting.
yeah, and they want to push, and they're trying to create a world where, magic seems like a reality. And so that's those are the things that people they're known for. And there's even a quote. I think there's, and this is going to kind of segue into it, but Daniel has a clip for us that he may be able to pull up, and it's a guy, Inky Johnson, kind of talking about it, right? And so he talks about Nike and he talks about Adidas, and then he talks about, what I guess you're defined as, and what you stand for. So I think Daniel can go ahead and
When I
play
look
that.
at people, I always ask the question, I say, man, tell me what Nike stands for. They
You know what? I thought I had it, but I am not sharing it yet. Let's try again. All right, let's try again. Here we go. I'm gonna turn down the volume. It started playing on its own. I don't know why I did that. All right, here we go.
When I look at people, I always ask the question, I say, man, tell me what Nike stands for. They said, oh, Ink, that's easy, just do it. I said, tell me what Adidas stands for. Oh, Ink, that's easy, man, impossible is nothing. I said, now tell me what you stand for. I said, when people look at you, do they think excuses? When people look at you, do they think victory? When people look at you, do they think that's a person that's going to give me everything they got, not on some days, but on every day, and it's not going to be predicated upon if I feel like it, because I think we all know if we only worked on the days when we felt like it, none of us would get much accomplished. I'm speaking of the commitment that says, I am going to stay true to what I said I would do long after the mood that I've set it in has left.
Perfect. Yeah. So why do we show that video? And again, I'm super sloppy with these transitions, but we're gonna get there.
Yeah, it's a part of the learning process.
Exactly.
Yeah, but as you kind of saw in the video, so like he talks about it, kind of the same thing. He says, what does Nike stand for? Oh, that's easy. Just do it. What does Adidas stand for? Nothing is impossible. And then he brings up, what do you stand for? And then he kind of builds on that with, whenever people see you, and he's an inspirational speaker or motivational speaker. So his are going to be a little bit more towards, what you're like as a person. And so he says, whenever people see you, what do they think? But I mean, it's a similar concept, right? So like whenever people, hear about you joining a team or being on a project or whatever, it's like, is that somebody that I'm excited to work for or work
Hmm.
with? Or is that somebody that it's like, I really wish that we had gotten somebody else. It's, the same way that maybe you would think about athletes on like a fantasy team. It's like, is that a guy that's going to be dependable? It's going to get me a lot of fantasy points, or is this somebody that like he's like I just needed to fill up a running back two spot, and so I just picked
Yeah.
up somebody, right? And so it's somebody that's going to ride the bench, or maybe I can trade him out and get somebody a little bit better. So it's what are you like? What do you bring to the team? And we want to focus on bringing something that is going to provide value to a team or to whatever situation that you're in.
Yeah. Okay, so what are the things that go into building your personal brand? I think that one of the most important things is we've touched on it briefly, but it's your personal values, right? So, and how do these values come through in your work? So if your personal value is perseverance, that's one of my personal values, then the way that that comes through in my work is that I'm not going to be the first one to just drop something. And if I'm working on something and I have a task that I know is I'm capable of doing and it's a task I need to get done, then I'm gonna persevere to make sure that that task is done. I'm not gonna just drop that task and say, oh, it's not possible. So
Right.
what are some of your personal values and how do they relay into what you do on a daily basis at work?
Yeah. So I mean, I think whenever you start thinking about what you bring to the team, I think you want to try and avoid the things that are pretty like cliche, I guess. So I mean, I'm thinking specifically with engineers. So everybody with an engineering degree, they have some sort of credibility towards their intelligence level or towards the amount, like their ability to learn. So you want to try and focus on like the intangibles, right? The things that you can bring to the table that you may not necessarily get out of like a degree, right?
Yeah,
So for mine, I think mine is I guess relatability. So I think whenever people interact with me, I think they see like a someone that has a lot like interacts really well with people, and can make people feel comfortable. But also they can tell that I'm excited and that I want to work with people, right? I
yeah,
want to drive towards the end goal of helping everybody out. And the other thing that I would like to think that I'm known for, that I'm good for, is quality of work. That was always something that was really hard pressed whenever I was getting my engineering degree, and that was always something that I probably worry about a little too much. Right? Is that
yeah,
I want to be conscious of the work that I'm putting out and the deliverables, but because whenever that's like the biggest thing. That people are going to notice you for, right? So like the
yeah,
work that you do, that's potentially going to get passed up the chain, and somebody that doesn't even know who you are is going to see that and say, "Oh, this is we can't use this, right? Like this is unusable or this isn't any good, and we're going to have to redo it." So I try and be in a situation where it's like they look at it and they say, "Oh, this is really well done. This is something that we can use, or this is exactly what I'm looking for." So I think that's something that I deliver to the table or that I bring to the table.
so that's your personal value is high quality of work and your relatability. And that kind of
Yeah.
translates into the next thing about the next biggest part about your brand is your what is your unique value proposition. So yours is that somebody can always I mean, it's crazy to say that maybe this is unique, but yours is that they can always expect a high quality piece of product. It's gonna be professional, it's gonna be that is your one of your unique value proposition, but it's taking in the aspects of your personal values and your background, your education, your interests, your career goals, your skills all together, and then your that all comes together and forms your unique value proposition. So one of my unique value propositions is that I have a very, I guess, a wide lens understanding of the context around the things that I'm working in, but I'm able to work in a very narrow work scope. And I don't know how better to describe that, but one of my unique value propositions is earlier in my career, I have a very good breadth of understanding of the way things work in a larger sense. So and that's from the roles that I've worked in. That's the people that I have worked with in my roles and responsibilities, and then my ability to then communicate those things is a function of my education and my background. So that is what I've pulled together as one of my unique value propositions. What would you say is your unique value proposition that goes into your brand?
So I think my, I guess, unique value proposition is that, and this is something that maybe some perceive as a weakness, but I tried and twist it into a strength, is that I
Yes.
have experience in a lot of different roles and a lot of different aspects of things, right? So whenever I first started my career, originally I was in design, so I understood how the design aspect of things worked. Um,
Mhm.
and then after that, I, was actually out in the field working, as just, like a skilled labor, trades craft kind of person. So I got to see how working places performed and how, I guess, work is actually done, right down to a foreman and a journeyman or a helper level.
Yeah.
And so I understand like how they think and what goes into it. And then I also have some experience with, I guess, the project management and the construction side of things, right? So I have an understanding of how contracts are built out, how financially things go into place and how things work, but also like planning out work and how that needs to be done, and things that you can do to ensure a good quality, um, I guess a good quality of work is done, or whatever
Yeah.
you're trying to accomplish is achieved.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't necessarily do, especially not 3 or 4 years into their career. Maybe
Yeah.
at 10 or 15, you've experienced some of these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, like 3 years into my career, having, uh, I don't want to say been able to, but being put in the situations that I was in, I'm able to kind of capitalize on that.
Yeah. Exactly. Thanks, Luke. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we our val we know what a brand is. Our values drive our brand. Our values contribute to what our unique value proposition is, and then overall that together kind of builds the overall identity of what our professional brand is. So what kind of engineer you want to be known as is Luke's talked about precision, timeliness, quality of work, preparedness, good communicator, and I mean team player. I mean, ideally we want to be all of those things, but focusing on demonstrating those things, focusing on sorry, I got a notification that the stream was fell apart, but it's back together. All right, but focusing on those specific character traits of a worker contributes to you then building your professional brand and being a positive brand that other people talk about. And now that we've built our brand, I think that there's some action items right around brand building. So the first one I think is by advocating for yourself, right? So not only do you have to work on your brand, but then you have to kind of push your brand. So what does that look like? So for me, that looks like knowing when your promotion cycle is and whenever your merit increase cycle is. So most companies have promotion cycles and merit increases. So at any point in one year, you could be eligible for both promotion and merit increase. And part of that is advocating based on your brand. So collecting those data points and like, hey, my work product has been really high. I've gotten feedback that my work product's really high. So, and kind of pushing that up to your manager so that your manager either knows that you're eligible for a merit increase, or maybe using those things to advocate for specific positions that you want to get promoted into. So personal being a personal advocate is super important, and having a good understanding of what your professional brand is will then equip you to be a better professional personal advocate for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, also, I think, and this is going to be kind of into your next point, but that's also a good opportunity for you to get some constructive feedback. Not only, I think you should have some sort of self-assessment of that. So you should be aware of like what you're good at, what you're not good at, but also, kind of the route that you want to take, right? So if you want to be, and I guess this is kind of where you want to take your career, right? So like if you are looking to take your career into being, like if you are really good with design and that's kind of like the route that you want to go, like you want to be a senior PE or a lead engineer or something like that, like you have to, build a brand around, the quality of work that's being performed and the success of the design that you're getting into. If you're looking to be a manager, then you have to, potentially like look into branding yourself and putting yourself in a situation where you can take on responsibilities with other people, where you can develop other engineers around you. And so I think you have to do a little bit of a self-assessment of yourself. But also, going back to that, like that's a really good opportunity for you to get some constructive feedback, right? Some
Yeah,
constructive criticism. You can talk to your manager and say, hey, what are some things that you would like for me to see me work on as, as an engineer, as a person, as a team member. Do I play well with others, right? Like if I'm in a meeting with somebody, am I just condescending towards people, right? I mean,
yeah,
and sometimes like you have to, you're not always going to be around engineers. Sometimes you're
exactly.
going to be around, people that, or maybe come from the field, right? And so you're around
Yep, yep,
craft, journeyman or
yep.
whatever, and so you're going to have to play well with them. Like you can't be condescending towards them and say, "Oh, well, you just wouldn't understand because you're not an
Yeah,
engineer." And it's like the level of knowledge that they bring into the table. And so, that's an opportunity for you to, get some feedback on what you're like and how things that you can improve on, so that way you can take a step in the right direction over the next year, or things that you can note that, hey, I really need to be, whenever I'm in a meeting, I really need to be open and receptive to other people, right? I need to,
yeah.
not look at them in a poor light, but say, hey, let's see what they bring to the table and let's work with them, right? And put yourself in a good situation. So,
Exactly. And that that assessment process comes through you either through your corporate performance and development program doing that self-assessment, or if your manager is not really the mentor that you need for that, then identify another mentor that you can do that self-assessment with, somebody that's in a position that you aspire to be in, that you can kind of do that assessment with and say, hey, like just like for one person to another, you've worked with me, what's your perception of me, and what are some areas that you think I can grow in to kind of grow into where I want to be, because you're advocating for yourself where you want to be, and then the people in that position can give you feedback on how you get there. So yeah, I think that, thank you, Luke, for bringing up this topic. Personal branding is exceptionally important. The brand is important because it's how people know you. It's how people talk about you, and it's your avenue to career growth. So thank you, Luke, for bringing up this topic. I don't have any other things to say about it. Any other closing comments from you on the importance of a personal brand or a professional brand?
I mean, I think the big thing is just, don't get too caught up in just the deliverables, right? Remember that you're, like, one of the things that you offer or bring to a company is also who you are as a person. So do remember that whenever you're going through and you're developing yourself as a young professional and a young engineer. It's like, hey, I bring more to the table than just somebody that can output work, right? I'm a human being and I provide certain insights, and I have certain things that people are going to look for. And also, again, back to like the self performance thing and the mentorship. Um, I think that is a really good opportunity, right? Is to ask your mentor, ask somebody that you work closely with. But I think also, reach out to other people too, right? Other people that you work with and say, hey, like whenever you work with me, like, what do you think? Like, what do you think I could improve on? What do you think what do you think I do
Interesting.
well? What do you think I not do well? Right. So for instance, like I was working, whenever I was a project engineer, I worked on I guess, the concrete side of things, or I worked with structural and foundations. But of course, like we interact with electrical, we interact with MEP, and so you can sit down with the electrical or the MEP manager and say, hey, like, how do you feel like working with me? Right? I mean, you're a part of the same company, you're part of the same team, and they can
Exactly.
provide some really, some good feedback. Now, you may need to have some thick skin, because they may say, well, I'll be honest, I don't think you really bring a whole lot to the table. I
Oh
think you
no.
need to do this. Yeah, and I mean, that may just be because you're young, or I mean, they can say, well, we see that you're bright and that you're intelligent, or I know that you're bright and you're intelligent, but you don't seem to take a lot of initiative, right? Or you don't seem to chime in whenever it's appropriate. And I think you need to have a little bit more confidence. And all those are good things, right? All those things are things that you can work on and that you can improve on, because
Mhm.
they're giving you good feedback. They're saying good things about you, but you're
Yeah.
not capitalizing on what you have to bring to the table. So I mean, I guess just remember those things, and just remember that you're developing as a person and an engineer just as much as you are trying to refine your ability to be productive and produce work.
Thanks so much for watching this episode of the Engineering Success Podcast. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All of your comments create extra reach so that more people can watch the
They
podcast.
heard the kid in 50 countries, thank God that's amazing. But I'd rather thank Spotify, they put me on the station.